Remember, trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. You are an aperture through which the universe is looking at and exploring itself. The more a thing tends to be permanent, the more it tends to be lifeless. Man suffers only because he takes seriously what the gods made for fun. Try to imagine what it will be like to go to sleep and never wake up. Now try to imagine what it was like to wake up having never gone to sleep. You and I are all as much continuous with the physical universe as a wave is continuous with the ocean. It is hard indeed to notice anything for which the language available to us have no description. Never pretend to a love which you do not actually feel, for love is not ours to command. Every intelligent individual wants to know what makes him tick, and yet is at once fascinated and frustrated by the fact that oneself is the most difficult of all things to know. Life is like music for its own sake. We are living in an eternal now, and when we listen to music, we are not listening to the past, we are not listening to the future, we are listening to an expanded present. Problems that remain persistently insoluble should always be suspected as questions asked in the wrong way. There will always be suffering, but we must not suffer over the suffering. If we are unduly absorbed in improving our lives, we may forget altogether to live them. We cannot be more sensitive to pleasure without being more sensitive to pain. The only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. You are a function of what the whole universe is doing in the same way that a wave is a function of what the whole ocean is doing. Normally, we do not so much look at things as overlook them. We seldom realize, for example, that our most private thoughts and emotions are not actually our own, for we think in terms of languages and images which we did not invent, but which were given to us by our society. To be free from convention is not to spurn it, but not to be deceived by it. To put it still more plainly, the desire for security and the feeling of insecurity are the same thing. To hold your breath is to lose your breath. We do not come into this world. We come out of it, as leaves from a tree, as the ocean waves, the universe peoples. Total situations are therefore patterns in time as much as patterns in space. What you are basically, deep down, far in, is simply the fabric and structure of existence itself. Remember that muddied water is best cleared by simply leaving it alone. Everyone has love, but it can only come out when he is convinced of the impossibility and the frustration of trying to love himself. You did not come into this world. You came out of it, like a wave from the ocean. You are not a stranger here. Every individual is a unique manifestation of the whole, as every branch is a particular outreaching of the tree. But I'll tell you what hermits realize. If you go off into a far, far forest and get very quiet, you will come to understand that you're connected with everything. Meditation is the discovery that the point of life is always arrived at in the immediate moment. Only words and conventions can isolate us from the entirely undefinable something which is everything. The more we struggle for life as pleasure, the more we are actually killing what we love. We cannot be more sensitive to pleasure without being more sensitive to pain. The sense of wrong is simply failure to see where something fits into a pattern, to be confused as to the hierarchical level upon which an event belongs. To have faith is to trust yourself to the water. When you swim, you don't grab hold of the water, because if you do, you will sink and drown. Instead, you simply relax and float. I have realized that the past and future are real illusions, that they exist in the present, which is what there is, and all there is. A scholar tries to learn something every day. A student of Buddhism tries to unlearn something daily. The difficulty of describing things for Western ears is that people in a hurry simply cannot feel. There is no hurry, and in a way there is no future. It is all here, so take it easy, take your time, and begin to get acquainted with it. We need, above all things, to slow down and get ourselves to amble through life instead of rushing headlong through it. Faith is, above all, openness, an act of trust in the unknown. There is a contradiction in wanting to be perfectly secure in a universe whose very nature is momentariness and fluidity. It's better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. Words can be communicative only between those who share similar experiences. The sense of wrong is simply failure to see where something fits into a pattern, to be confused as to the hierarchical level upon which an event belongs. You are under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago. Life is not a problem to be solved, nor a question to be answered. Life is a mystery to be experienced. You are in relationships with the external world that on the whole are incredibly harmonious. It's a special kind of enlightenment to have this feeling that the usual, the way things normally are, is odd, uncanny, and highly improbable. The relationship of self to other is the complete realization that loving yourself is impossible without loving everything defined as other than yourself. When we attempt to exercise power or control over someone else, we cannot avoid giving that person the very same power or control over ourselves. We get such a kick out of looking forward to pleasures and rushing ahead to meet them that we can't slow down enough to enjoy them when they actually come along. We keep counting time. We have the sensation time is running out, and we bug ourselves with this. Time is nothing but an abstract measure of motion. We are living in an eternal now. Parts exist only for purposes of figuring and describing, and as we figure the world out, we become confused if we do not remember this all of the time. Remember, the menu is not the meal. This then is the real secret of life, to be completely engaged with what you are doing in the here and now, and instead of calling it work, realize it is play. Please subscribe for daily motivational quotes.